my name is Thomas Joswak, and I'll be presenting Resistance to Change in Politics and Social Media. The question I will be trying to answer today is, what effects do humans create by resisting change, and how are social media and politics involved in this resistance? Now, first we have to go back and see different examples of how humans have been resisting change, mainly in history and in culture. One example in the stimulus material is the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr. As he says in the letter from Birmingham jail, he says that the white church and the white moderate were the people who were resisting his movement, even though their moral and ethical values supported it. But this was due to social norms that opposed this change. Also, another example, also from the stimulus material, a poem by Richard Blanco, Looking for the Gulf Motel, talks about a main character that goes back to a motel and resists and ignores change that he sees with that motel, instead of finding the improvements that they made on it. Now, connecting the resistance to change to social media, and social media is rapidly growing and rising in popularity over the years, with 79% of the US using social media and over 166 million people having Facebook in the US. And social media has a lot of benefits to it. It lets lots of people connect all over the world at fast speeds that many people would not be able to have. And this gives people more information at faster speeds, causing them to make more discoveries also at faster speeds than normal. But there are some cons to this, is that there are social groupings, socially connecting people that have the same interests as them, and politically that will cause people to stay in their own groups and not talk to their opposing views. As Edward Kessler puts it very well in the stimulus material in his paper, he says that the Salafis up here, the Shias and the Sufis, will never actually end their conflict. Well, these are subdivisions of Islam who will never solve their conflict because they isolate each other from their views, and this further creates more conflict. A study done by Christopher Blair from Duke University did a study with about 900 people who were identified as Republicans or Democrats. He gave them a $7 to $12 incentive to follow a Twitter bot that would post their opposing views. So if they were Democrat, it would post Republican tweets, and it would do a weekly test of the bot's retweets. And according to this chart here, minimally compliant would mean that they answered none of the questions correct. Partially compliant would mean that they answered one, but not all of them right, and fully would mean they answered all of them correct. As you can see, minimally compliant is the highest amount of people in that category out of all three of them, showing that each political side both ignores and rejects the opposing side's views and claims. Now, my first solution to this is modifying or creating new social media platforms that encourage civil debate and discussion and give people information on different topics. Sites like debate.org and Kalo and YouTube channels like Middle Ground that already exist and are encouraging civil debate and discussion already. Specifically, Kalo offers pros and cons of each topic and shows how two different sides of a topic see this topic using their claims. And it also lets people comment on specific topics or a person's perspective, showing that this site encourages civil debate and discussion. The pros of this solution is that it will cause debate and discussion between opposing views, and this might get these opposing people to have a possible middle ground or agreement on a specific topic, and people who do not have an opinion on a specific topic, these sites might provide evidence or insight on these different topics. The cons of this, however, is that these sites are unpopular, and sites like Kalo and debate.org are not very popular right now in the United States. And if we were to change existing social media platforms, the people using them and the companies might reject this change. My second solution is to educate people in schools. This would be a required curriculum to give people insight on the political party, their beliefs, and their history. And this would be during the junior high school range. This graph from Harvard University shows the brain's ability to change on the blue line and the amount of effort needed to change amount of effort such change requires on the orange line. And this shows that junior high to high school is the perfect range of time to do this, because if you get any older, their opinions have already developed and they won't be able to accept the information that you're giving them. But if you go any younger, the children might not understand the information. The pros of this solution is that it educates people through critical thinking. A British researcher and writer of British history, Penelope Cornfield, says that when students write and read history, they engage their critical thinking skills, and these critical thinking skills might make students form their political views, and this would happen before 18, so they would be able to vote using this information and not voting blindly. The cons of this solution is that it might be difficult to implement, and even if it is implemented, private schools might not adopt the same curriculum. And because it is a required class, there will be more staff needed, and that would drive up the cost of this solution. In conclusion, I believe solution 2, education in schools, is a more long-term and effective option. Even though it is more costly to the government, it is less risky than solution 1 with the social media platforms, because they have a risk of rejection in the social and cultural area. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Thomas, was there some information that you needed that you weren't able to find and locate? And how did you go about trying to find that information?
Well, I was trying to find information about studies like the Duke University one. That's how I had to dig deep for that information, because when I first was looking for stuff that showed the polarization or resistance to change, it was kind of hard to find. So I had to dig deep for that kind of information.
Okay, so what advice do you have for somebody who wants to do this topic?
Well, probably find the studies that are that have to do with the social media and politics, and probably go deeper into the polarization than I did. One of the topics that probably would have been a little bit better to dive into would have been the psychological part of it, how resisting change might be, the psychological aspect of a person resisting change. So if you give someone an opposing view, how they react to that opposing view. So similar to the Duke University one.
Okay, thank you.